Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
When it's time to build a home, remodel, or add on, Hamby Builders is this area's experienced construction company. From site selections to floors, doors, windows, trim, tile, bathrooms, and kitchen, the Hamby Builders team can make your home the home of your dreams. Hamby Builders is licensed and insured with over 20 years of experience in homes in Giles, Lawrence, Wayne, and Murray counties. Trust your home construction or light commercial project to the team with experience and integrity. Hamby Builders. Call 931-629-5264 or 931-629-9472 today.
Bring your outdoor dreams to life at Loretto Nursery and Landscaping. This one-stop shop can help you get your project done from start to finish. Go see for yourself. They have a wide variety of plants, from tropicals to ferns and trees, plus hanging baskets. What they have to offer goes beyond what looks good. They also supply concrete, mulch, compost, and drainage culverts. Don't forget about their on-lot buildings and chicken coops. You think that's all? You can also stop by to fill up your propane tank. Loretto Nursery and Landscaping has you covered. Stop by 409 South Military Street.
Nobody makes hauling more affordable than C&D Hauling. Serving southern Middle Tennessee and northern Alabama, they supply premium materials like asphalt, sand, gravel, and much more for whoever needs it, like contractors, builders, or homeowners. Call today for a free quote.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we have a lot to get into, folks. We're getting to the heat of college football season these last couple of weeks where you're really going to find out who those 12 teams, maybe there should be, a couple of teams on the outside looking in, maybe a couple of teams on the inside that maybe shouldn't be there. We'll get into that. We've got a coaching carousel update. We've got a new AP poll drought that has been broken. We have college football playoff rankings. We have Heisman hopefuls. We have college basketball, like I had said. We got games to break down. We got a little preview of Feast Week. So we will jump right into it. First with the midweek college football action, as always. I believe this is our last week of the regular season when it comes to midweek action. So we had 3 games last night. We will jump into those, starting with Akron at Bowling Green. 2 teams with 7 losses, looking to try to find something positive to come out of the season with. Akron getting the win 19-16. And folks, Akron's not going to a bowl, but the job that Joe Moorhead has done at Akron this season has been remarkable, because if you remember, they weren't very good last year. Not very good at all. I believe they may not have even won a game last year. It was not a great year. Let's look. Last year, 4-8. But this year, tough start to the year. I mean, you look at the schedule. You got Wyoming at Nebraska at UAB to start the season. You're 0-3, and you're thinking, what is going on? You get a win over FCS Duquesne, and now you go to Toledo, the Glass Bowl, and you get demolished. And you're looking up at, what can we do? I'm not going to say they figured everything out, but Joe Moorhead's squad is getting there. We'll put it that way. And the fact that they went 5-7 this year is remarkable. Their last week funny enough, is this week. They don't. I guess their last regular season week ended up being a bye week. You got a good game on the ground out of Jordan Gant, 22 carries, 86 yards. Again, not a whole lot of points in this one. Each team only scored one touchdown. That one being to Ben Finley, a pass to Israel Polk, a 75-yard touchdown for Akron. 108 for the quarterback for Bowling Green, 138 passing yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. Austin Dendy was awesome on the ground, 27 carries, 110 yards. Unfortunately, could not punch it into the end zone. And it was a defensive scram in this one. Good win for the Zips. They finished 500 in MAC play, almost finished 500 on the season. And for as poorly as this season started, I think the fact that Akron got to 5 wins is a miracle in and among itself. Bowling Green falls to 3-8. They got one game left next week at UMass, so looking like they'll pick up their 4th win next week, as UMass still hasn't won a game. And we'll talk about that game because UMass actually played last night. Funny enough, if you'd believe it. They did show up. Can't say much more. Ohio takes them down 42-14. Great game from the Bobcats. Parker Navarro threw the ball 8 times. This team was bound and determined to run the ball down UMass's throat, and they did beautifully. I mean, you look at 3 for 8 for 28 yards, and you think, "Oh, did I accidentally click on Navy's game or Air Force's game?" No, this isn't a service academy. This is a MAC school running the ball 57 times for 363 yards and 6 touchdowns. Bangura, 27 carries, a $196, 2 touchdowns, just dominant. I mean, that is almost 8 yards a carry. Just under, maybe 7.5, 8 yards a carry. Duncan Brune, 14 carries, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the quarterback got in on the fun. Navarro, 14 carries, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those guys did all but 2 carries for 2 yards. So 55 carries for 361 yards. That's dominant. I get these are 2 schools in the same conference. They are both FBS teams. The fact that you could run it for 363 yards. I mean, that's just absurd. That's over 7 yards a carry. It was not a great game for UMass. Obviously, the Minutemen have not had a good year. A little bit of a 2-quarterback game. Grant Jordan, 56 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Brandon Rose, 34 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Had a collection of guys running the ball. 4 guys got over 5 carries. Nobody really able to cash in on anything. They had 40 carries for 125 yards, so somewhere around the 4.2 range for yards per carry. And that's not bad. It's just when you're getting dominated that bad, it's not going to work. And you're also trying to mix in the pass game. Ohio made it pretty evident they weren't going to throw the ball last night. UMass attempted 28 passes and only completed 15 of them. So UMass, again, has one more game remaining on the schedule. That will be next week, next Tuesday, actually, against Bowling Green. We had just talked about them. The Bobcats, one game left against Buffalo. That one will be on Black Friday, 11 a.m. on ESPNU. Hey, Ohio, going for an 8-4 season. Right now, tied for second in the MAC with Central Michigan, Toledo, Buffalo, and Miami, all with 2 conference losses. It looks like Ohio has wins over most of them. Miami of Ohio didn't play Toledo, and Central Michigan, I believe they didn't play them either. No, so gonna be some fun tiebreakers to go around for the MAC Conference Championship game. And Western Michigan, another one of those teams up there at the top of the conference. They had a game last night with Northern Illinois. The Huskies, again, not a great season following that big upset win they got over Notre Dame last year. But we're trying to get back on track, try to set a good standard for the end of the year. But, man, the Broncos, they're 6-1 in the MAC for a reason. They are just awesome. Brock Lowry, again, this was another game that was ground and pound, at least for the winning team. 59 carries, 361 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the ground for the Broncos. And it was everybody. You had a couple of running backs. You had the quarterback get in there for a couple of runs. Jalen Buckley, 24 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devin Miles, 14 carries, 105 yards, did not get in the end zone. But Brock Lowry, the quarterback, 13 carries, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Just an absolute great game for the Broncos. Looking at the Huskies, tough not running the ball. If your name wasn't Javon Wright, it wasn't going great. Telly Johnson had a couple of good runs, but just other than that, not good at all. This team is going to have to retool and look towards next year. I mean, 3-8 right now, 2-5 in the MAC. That's strange to be where you were last year to see where you are now. It's kind of crazy to realize that. Let me make sure. Let's see what the Huskies record. They went 8-5 last year, and Thomas Hammock is still there. Now they lost their offensive coordinator, but that shouldn't have been anything that had too much of an impact. Again, this was still, despite going 8-5 last year, this was still a team that went 500 in conference play. So, this is a Northern Illinois team that hasn't really had many good years since the Jordan Lynch days of the mid-2010s. Maybe they can get back on track soon. Next week, their last game will also be on Black Friday at 11 a.m. That one will be at home against Kent State. So that will wrap up our 3 MAC games for the night. Again, it was Akron over Bowling Green, Ohio over UMass, and Western Michigan over Northern Illinois. The Bobcats and the Broncos, dominant performances on the ground. I'd love to see them have a rematch in the conference championship game. Coming up tonight, we have a couple more MAC games. Central Michigan at Kent State. That one at 6 p.m. on ESPNU. We will pull up Kent State because the Golden Flashes have actually been pretty good last year. They were that team that was, oh my gosh, are they going to win a game last year? And I don't know what's happened in the 1 year since. I mean, Kent State went 0-12 last year, 0-8 in conference play. They made a coaching change, obviously, in the offseason. It was not going to work with Kenny Burns. Mark Carney, their offensive coordinator, was promoted. Was promoted to the interim position for the first 8 games of the season, and then has been official since then. Awesome seeing that happen for this team and the team to rally around them, because this team started 1-4. It was not good, but you look at the teams they played at Texas Tech. Yeah, that's not going to go well. At Florida State, as of September 20th, that's how that game was going to go. And then at number 5, Oklahoma. That was Oklahoma without John Mateer, but still, I mean, those teams are on much different levels. And you look, this team coming off of an overtime win last week at Akron are looking to get right, and they got Central Michigan to do so. This game does actually have some pretty big impacts on the conference championship game. The Golden Flashes are, I would say, pretty much done with three conference losses. But the Chippewas only have 2. Taking them out of the conversation would almost solidify Ohio and Western Michigan. Toledo still has a fighting chance with two games left. We will actually talk about, I guess they are actually off this week. The Rockets are playing on Saturday 1. Okay, they're back to playing on Saturdays again. Kent State has been an interesting team this year because their offense has actually been really, really good. Drew DeShields over 1,600 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, only 2 picks, not turning the ball over a ton on the air. Got a collection of tailbacks, but this is a very good football team that has a big game tonight. There's no way around it. Central Michigan favored by 7.5. Total set at 50.5. It's tough to tell because these teams, when you stack them up, look pretty even. Kent State does have a win over Akron. Central Michigan has a loss to Akron. Both teams have beaten Bowling Green. Both teams dominated UMass. I'm not going to say Kent State is going to crash the party, but I'd definitely give them a look. Miami of Ohio at Buffalo, these two teams at 5-5. That game tonight, I believe on the CBS Sports Network at 6. If I can find CBS Sports, this one on ESPN2 at 6 p.m. Miami of Ohio has had a great year. Maybe not to their standards, but still, the Red Hawks still very alive in that conference championship push. Their opponent is also still alive in that conference championship push. You got 2 5-5 teams, 2 4-2 teams in conference play going head-to-head tonight. This one at Buffalo. Miami of Ohio given 2.5 points in the spread. Total set at 38.5. Which means this one is going to be ugly. Miami of Ohio has had some interesting, to say the least, with team. What's the way I want to phrase this? I guess just team chemistry. Daquan Finn. He's the quarterback, or was the quarterback for Miami. Henry Hessen has taken over. The backup has taken over since then. The senior, but Daquan Finn. This guy spent 5 years at Toledo. Was a 2,000-yard passer 3 times. Was actually a fairly good quarterback. Goes to Baylor last year. Doesn't get to play too much. Doesn't do well when he does. Transfers back to the MAC and has had an all right year, and has gone down with an injury, and then announces that he is stepping away from the team to focus on his NFL draft stock. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's had an all right career, but I don't think these are the kind of stats that get you into get you to the NFL. I mean, he's an all right runner, but I don't see it. I do not see it. He may get picked up as a free agent, but I don't think any of the 32 NFL teams are going to waste a pick on a guy that quits on this team to work on his next job. Not a good look. I'll just put it like that. With that, I'm going to go Buffalo. Maybe Miami can kind of use that as a bit of a rallying point, because, again, this is not something, me talking bad about Miami of Ohio. This is talking a little bit down on Daquan Finn and the decision he made. Now, obviously, with things like this, there's always stuff going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about. I would imagine there's some of that in here as well. Tomorrow night, we got a game in the Conference USA. We got Arkansas State taking on, let me pull this back up, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. Again, this one, the Thursday night game. Butch Jones and his squad have a chance to get to bowl eligibility with a win Thursday, and it would be remarkable. Taking a look at the Sun Belt standings, Arkansas State, I guess, is somewhat still alive technically. Southern Miss would have to lose their last 2 games, and those are against teams. They might lose to Troy, but they're not going to lose to South Alabama on Saturday. They could. I just don't see it happening. So they're still alive for the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, but right now it's just trying to about getting to bowl eligibility. Listen, Butch Jones has done a great job with this team. Jalen Rayner has had a bit of a rough start to his college career, but in his 3rd year at Arkansas State, 2,400 passing yards, nearly 70% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, 10 picks. Bit of a turnover problem, but has 7 rushing touchdowns, another 300 yards on the ground. He's a great athlete. They're going to need him to have an absolute ball of a game and not have 1 or 2 of those interceptions like he has been for most of the season. I mean, you can do that, and you will be just fine against this Louisiana team who has struggled, to say the least, this season. A couple spots behind Arkansas State in the Sun Belt West. Have not had a good year throwing the ball. Lunch Winfield, only 1,100 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. Definitely like to keep most of their work done on the ground. Winfield, 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. Zylan Perry, their leading rusher, 7 touchdowns, 600 yards. Bill Davis, 560 yards and 4 touchdowns. So this is a team that does their work on the ground. If Arkansas State gets up early and gets a good 2-score lead early, watch out, because it could get out of hand quick. Now we'll break into some of the news going on this week in college football. Arizona State star quarterback Sam Leavitt is doubtful to return to Arizona State next season. Leavitt, the redshirt sophomore, and his camp are actively searching. This was reported by On3 and Pete Nako, so I would say it's actually a pretty trusted source. Searching the talented quarterback around at a higher level school. The projected loss of talented receiver Jordan Tyson, that has obviously been Leavitt's number 1 target the past 2 years. Tyson being a projected first-round NFL draft pick, be a huge loss for not only the Arizona State, but their quarterback. So I can kind of understand, so to speak, him wanting to maybe look elsewhere, because he's won pretty much everywhere he's been for his career. I'm not going to count his redshirt year at Michigan State, but the 2 years he's been at Arizona State, I mean, they went 10-3 last year, 11-3 last year, and so he's won 18 games so far through 2 years. I don't understand. I don't like the idea of leaving your team because you don't think they're going to be any good the next year. We've seen it happen before, obviously, but I don't like that look. I just leaving somebody when kind of kicking them when they're down isn't a good thing. But Kenny Dillingham's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. People are going to want to play for him. If he does elect to leave, sure, Arizona State, I already think they're going to be down next year. But so you give Dillingham a couple more years, build up another roster, they could be right back in that playoff hunt, and they may be there next year. I mean, nobody saw them being that team last year. They kind of emerged late. So, I mean, it's anybody's game out there in the Big 12. It really is. We have not seen, ever since Texas and Oklahoma have left, because those two were pretty much the two every year, it felt like, for most of the Big 12's history. Now that they're gone, and you've added these teams from the old Pac-12 with Utah, BYU, Arizona State, Colorado, it's made this so much more entertaining. So I'm really interested to see how the Big 12 can evolve. There were some family members posting screenshotted text messages with Pete Nakos. We've seen this before in a quarterback leaving situation that everybody's like, why are you posting this? This isn't true. And then that quarterback hits the portal and goes to UCLA a couple weeks later. So maybe a similar situation with Sam Leavitt. Not exactly sure. But this is definitely something we'll keep an eye on. Hey, James Franklin's got a job, folks. Virginia Tech has finalized the deal to name James Franklin the next head coach of the Hokies. This was on Monday night. Franklin, who was introduced this morning, was one of the bigger names in this coaching carousel. Obviously, he was the biggest name out of a job right now. I think he's slightly higher echelon than Brian Kelly. Was one of the bigger names in the coaching carousel, and Virginia Tech was not slated as that A1 job. That was kind of out of the big jobs open right now. I mean, you got Penn State. That's a better job, I would say. And I'm not saying James Franklin took a step back, but I think he took a pretty good opportunity. You got Penn State that's open. You got LSU that's open. Florida, Auburn, Arkansas, UCLA. I mean, I think most of those are better jobs overall. Maybe not Oklahoma State, but I would say most of those other schools have better histories. But again, there was leaked talks that, and I'm guessing it was probably somebody in Virginia Tech's on the Virginia Tech side of things that may have leaked some information that Franklin was talking with Virginia Tech. And then there were more speculations early in the weekend, I believe on Saturday, that they had pretty much given James Franklin a deadline as early as maybe Monday afternoon to make a decision. Franklin had also been in talks with Arkansas. I thought that would have been a great fit for him. I thought that would have been a cool spot. But James Franklin also had his eye on that Florida State job because there were rumors of it opening, and Florida State has not looked good the past couple of weeks, and maybe Virginia Tech beating Florida State or losing to Florida State, last weekend, maybe that's some. I'm not predicting this, but maybe they lost so they could get James Franklin. So FSU would keep Mike Norvell so they could get James Franklin, because Franklin really wanted that Florida State job if it was going to open, which I still think it probably will after the season. Mike Norvell has not won other than that 1 year where he just got really lucky that Jordan Travis was awesome and he did really good out of the portal. He hasn't recruited a high school kid and developed him. I haven't seen it yet. Speaking of the coaching carousel, Ole Miss is a school that has been heavily involved in this due to their head coach, Lane Kiffin. Kiffin and his family reportedly both visited both LSU and Florida. LSU on Sunday, Florida earlier in the week on Monday. Following that, the Ole Miss athletic department, according to Yahoo Sports, reportedly gave Lane Kiffin an ultimatum that he needed to make his decision by November 28th, prior to the Egg Bowl. So he would not be, and at that point, he's not coaching his last game with his team. If they win that game, I think they're in. If they lose that game, probably maybe, I don't know. But at that point, you're looking at a team without a coach in the playoff. Looking at two teams that aren't in the playoff because allegedly they're better jobs. Listen, I've said the entire time I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to leave. I still don't think Lane Kiffin's going to leave. I think that he took an opportunity to go visit LSU in Florida and was able to probably sit down with some people in the athletic department and say, this is what we'll pay you. And then he goes back to Ole Miss and says, this is what they're offering. You know, I don't want to say that Lane Kiffin's greedy or anything, but if you and your agent, and Jimmy Sexton's one of the best, if y'all can both get a raise, they're going to do that. It's just how it is. Now, Kiffin appeared on the Pat McAfee show yesterday around this time and stated that the ultimatum was not true. There hasn't been anything like that at all. He followed it up by stating that we're having a blast here, and I love it. Things could not be better. He was with running back Juan Lacey, talking about, I guess, getting ready for the Egg Bowl since they have a weekend off. They're going to enjoy, what he said, watching everybody else lose, or at least watching half the country lose. So from the looks of things, Lane Kiffin did exactly what he was supposed to do. Look for more money and then deny. Smart move by Kiffin. We'll see if either he gets extended by a contract extension by Ole Miss, or if maybe he just does what he did to the last SEC school he was the head coach for and leave in the middle of the night for a more glamorous job on paper. So let's talk about the coaching carousel because it's evolved a bit, especially since the last time we talked. We haven't talked about it in probably 2 or 3 weeks because I didn't figure anything would change between now and then. But James Franklin of Virginia Tech was not on my bingo card at all. So we'll look at the rest. Oklahoma State. They're probably the one getting talked about the least right now in this coaching search. They're going to get some coach from Texas, a smaller school in Texas. Is it G.J. Kinney at Texas State? Is it Eric Morris at North Texas? Maybe is it Jeff Traylor at UTSA? It's going to be one of those. But my guess is it's going to be a younger guy, maybe like a Kinney or a Morris. Get one of those young guys that's going to stick around, that you can just stick in your program for 20 years. Yeah, you might have a bad year every once in a while, but it's going to be a pretty consistent, I'm not going to say national championship there, but a pretty good winner, somewhere in the 7-9 win range every year. You know, you'll have the couple of 5 and 7s and 4 and 8s because every school does, and especially one that has a track record like Oklahoma State. So I don't think they're going to go for a big name. I don't think they're going to want to spend a whole lot of money on this. I think that they're just trying to take their next step on from Mike Gundy and maybe resettle their sides, get somebody that looks at the transfer portal. I think Kenny would be a great option. Now, LSU and Florida. These are the two most interesting jobs because these are the two that have Lane Kiffin circled as 1A and 1B and probably 1C as well. But again, I don't think he's taking either of those jobs. I don't think it would be smart for him to take either of those jobs because he would be leaving a program that he has built up over the past half decade. And listen, Ole Miss was not anything that anybody was scared of. The last time that they have been this good, the quarterback at Texas, his grandfather was the one slinging the rock around an Oxford arch. That was the last time they were ranked as high as they are. And, you know, they had Eli for a couple of years, and yeah, he put up some good numbers, but they weren't great teams. You know, they weren't fighting for the national championship. Yeah, they had some good years under Hugh Freeze. They beat Alabama a couple years in a row. That was really exciting. You had Chad Kelly. He was a good quarterback. Bo Wallace before that was great. And you even had some teams after that that were so talented that Matt Luke was just such a terrible head coach. You know, the teams with Jordan Ta'amu and you know, throwing to guys like A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Elijah Moore, Evan Ingram running down the middle of that field. I mean, they've had the athletes. And now Lane Kiffin came in 2020. They didn't have a great year that year. 4-6, 5-5, nothing to go home about. 2021, they were really good. 2022, they were pretty good. 2023, they've been good. 2024, they were just outside of looking in on the playoffs. 2025, they've been excellent. Why leave? Because right now, LSU, I mean, they're trying not to pay Brian Kelly, so obviously they're having some money concerns, and The only reason you would leave there is for money. And I think that right now, especially with the way you beat them this year, your program's at a higher level than LSU. Florida hasn't been good since Urban Meyer was their head coach. They had the one good year, a couple of good years under Dan Mullen. I don't think you should have fired Dan Mullen in the first place. Don't think you're getting him back either. Who do you go for? Well, for LSU, I think Eli Drinkwitz is your best option. This is a guy that took Missouri, has had some rough years. I guess you could say maybe that first year in 2021 or maybe in 2020 had a rough year. But since 2022, they had an all right year then. They've been really good. 7-3 right now, still ranked is Missouri. But they're not a team that you thought when Drinkwitz got hired from Appalachian State that they would be a contender. You know, they've been close to the SEC championship a couple of times. Obviously, it's going to be hard when Georgia is in the SEC still. And now with the doing away of conferences, it's made it even harder. But where can he go do that at? LSU. You know, I get Missouri has some good recruiting grounds because you can kind of break into the Midwest, but LSU, man, you look at where Louisiana is situated. Obviously, that state has outstanding high school talent. Go up a little bit. Mississippi, there's good talent there. Alabama, you're close to them. Arkansas, maybe not the greatest in high school football talent, but you go just a little west of Texas. East Texas has got some good football in it, guys. And LSU and Houston, not too far away. Florida, you're in a hotbed there as well. And there's one name that has been thrown around this coaching search that he's going to get involved somehow, but you don't know how yet. I like Lincoln Riley going to Florida. Florida wants somebody that can recruit, develop, and score points. And maybe win some football games in there, but it's obviously more fun to lose if you're scoring a lot more and the game's fun. I think Lincoln Riley's the guy. Had the job at Oklahoma, was set up perfectly, and then he ruined it going to USC. USC still in the playoff hunt, surprisingly, right now. But I think that they'll lose to Oregon this Saturday. And then I think that we're going to be talking about Lincoln Riley maybe taking another job. I think he'd be exciting at Florida. He'd get to stay in the nice, warm weather. It would just be a lot more humid in Gainesville. But I think it'd be a good job for him. And listen, Florida's got the resources. And they're retaining most of their players as of now. It doesn't look like anybody wants to leave. Since they fired Billy Napier, they've had, up to this moment, 0 people decommit. They've had 0 people enter the transfer portal or say that they're going to when the season ends. That's a talented team that's retaining a bunch of players. Get a good coach, they're that close. Auburn's in an interesting spot because they want John Summerall, and John Summerall wants the Kentucky job. Well, unfortunately, a couple weeks ago, Kentucky beat Florida like a drum. That's something that doesn't happen. And that shows probably at how bad of a point the Florida's at. But Mark Stoops got a little traction with Cutter Boley going at Kentucky. So that job's probably not going to open now. Kentucky's 5-5. They need to win one more game to become bowl eligible. They have games against Vanderbilt this weekend and then Louisville the following weekend. So they got their work cut out for them. But man, if they make it to a bowl game, that job is definitely not opening up. It's been talked about all year. It's like, when are they going to fire Mark Stoops? And they've waited, and like it always happens with Kentucky, they get to the end of the year, they win a couple of games, maybe one that they shouldn't, look better in a game than they should, and they keep them. So I think John Summerall's looking at that Auburn job. It's got tough standards because it's Auburn. You know, they've had some unrealistic expectations set on them by their previous head coaches. You just go look at their last coach that got them to the national championship game, Gus Malzahn. Well, Gus Malzahn's first year at Auburn was as the offensive coordinator back in 2009. Left for a year to be the head coach at Arkansas State, then comes back to Auburn in 2013. Well, Auburn that year, in 2013, was pretty good. Good enough that they actually made it to the national championship game that year. In Gus Malzahn's first season with offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley, who is now the head coach at at SMU with co-offensive coordinator Damon Craig, that's now the wide receiver coach at Georgia State. But we've seen him on the offensive staff with LSU and Texas A&M. That's a good coach. And defense coordinator Ellis Johnson, who hasn't coached in a while, but has been in the SEC for a good part of the 2010s. This is a great coaching staff and a great team. Yeah, and it got extremely lucky. I mean, we all remember the kick six. We all remember the miracle in Jordan Hare the week before, or 2 weeks before. And we remember that SEC championship game that had 101 points scored in it. They were a good team. And then every year after that, they kind of trickled down 8-5, 7-6, 8-5, 10-4. They had a pretty good year. They actually made it to the SEC championship game in 2017, and were, I would say, beating Auburn in that game or beating Georgia again in that game away from possibly being the only two-loss team to ever make the 4-team playoff. They were that good, because you look at this team, their wins. They had a 8-point loss at number 3 Clemson, wins over Mississippi State, wins over a not good Ole Miss team, but went over a 9-4 LSU team. A big win over Kevin Summons last year at Texas A&M, but then you beat the number 1 team in the country by 23 points. Then, a couple weeks later, you go play the number 1 team again in Alabama, and you beat them. You beat the number 1 team in the country 2 times in 3 weeks. So, obviously, they were the number 2 team in the country and had to play Georgia again and got beat. You go before Gus Malzahn, and you go to Gene Chizik. Well, Gene Chizik's first year at Auburn went all right, you could say. I'm not going to say it went great, but it went all right. 2009 was a decent season for Auburn, but 2010 they won the national championship and went 14-0. Before that, you had Tommy Tuberville, and he was a great head coach, and he got you to he had the undefeated season in 2004. Would have been in the national championship if it wasn't for all that. But again, Auburn was a formidable opponent during his time there. They in 2004 they went 13-0 and won the SEC. So they have high expectations. Well, I think you fired Malzahn maybe a bit too prematurely. I get the glamour had kind of run away, but you go and you get Brian Harsin, a guy that is kind of like the Hugh Freeze hire. It was just one that you were like, that doesn't fit. And then again with the Hugh Freeze, you got him to beat Alabama, and, well, Nick Saban retired after his first year. So, and he didn't beat Alabama. So Auburn is in a spot right now where I don't know who wants the job. I'd say your best bet right now is probably the guy you have as the interim, B.J. Durkin. He's been a head coach before. He's got a decent track record. I think that with the way that this coaching carousel is going, that you let D.J. Durkin retain and be the head coach for maybe 2 years. Talk to him. See if you can get him to retain, stay as defensive coordinator. And then you bring in a new head coach in maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Because right now, everybody's looking for a head coach. And Auburn's probably 4th, maybe 5th on the list right now. They want Summerall. I think Durkin's also an option. Not sure, though. Now, Arkansas. This one's fun because they have Walmart and Tyson as their 2 biggest sponsors right now. I mean, you got Tyson plastered all over everything. You got Bud Walton Arena. That's Sam Walton's brother. They have money. They can bring in whoever they want. But who do they want? I think the smartest hire that they can make is Eric Morris. Eric Morris is the head coach at North Texas. They're 9-1 right now. I think they should be the group of 5 team in the playoff right now. But obviously, the College Football Playoff Committee only likes 2 teams, and those teams are South Florida and Tulane. So they will just keep losing and replacing each other every week until we have a 7-5 group of 5 team in the playoff. I digress. North Texas has a true freshman running back and a redshirt, and I think he's a true freshman quarterback as well. That running back's in the top 5 in the country in rushing yards, and that quarterback's 3rd in the country in passing yards. They score, they put up a ton of points. I think he'd probably get those 2 guys to come with him, and those are 2 guys that could probably turn a program around. Another name thrown in there, Alex Golish. Sure, the South Florida Glamour's kind of run off in the past couple of weeks with some of the losses they've endured. But I think he's still a great head coach. He's going to need some help on defense because South Florida, and that's the one thing about North Texas and South Florida, their defenses are awful. And Arkansas's had a history of bad defenses, and by history I mean right now. If you're going to get one of those guys, they have to bring a good defensive coordinator with them. Because I don't know how long Arkansas, because you can't win playing that way in the SEC. You can't win consistently because look at them, they're 2-8 right now, maybe 3 wins. Not a good look. Now at UCLA, funny enough, there's actually a coach in your conference just up the road. Well, not just up the road, up near Canada. Jed Fish. He was your interim at one point. I think he'd like to go back in a full-time role. This dude loves building up programs. Built Arizona back up after Kevin Sumlin drilled them into the ground. Retained, I would say, has sort of built Washington back up because after that national championship appearance, they lost almost everybody, including their coaches. Fish steps in, and yeah, they go 6-6 last year, but they're a team just outside the top 25 right now, and barring that loss to Wisconsin, have looked like a formidable team this year. Or Bob Chesney. Chesney, the head coach at JMU, he's a guy that can retain program success. I don't know if he can build it because he followed Cignetti up at James Madison, and they have been just as good since he's been there. Now we'll see if he doesn't take a job this offseason, how they look next year and maybe the year after that. Can he retain a program? We haven't seen that he can build one yet. UCLA needs somebody to completely retool their program. I think Jed Fish is the guy. Now, my favorite job opening right now, Penn State. They wanted Cignetti. He signed the new deal. They wanted Matt Rule. He signed the new deal. So who can they get? Well, there's like 10 names. I think their first phone call, realistically, should be to Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. I mean, you already took their defensive coordinator. Why not take their offensive coordinator, and then they just go get another guy from the NFL and keep getting better? Look at what Brian Hartline has done. He's been the offensive coordinator and the wide receivers coach for Ohio State for not exactly sure. I'll pull up the timeline on that because it's been long enough that he was the guy that brought in everybody. He's been with Ohio State in a quality control position upwards since 2017. He's been the offensive coordinator since 2023. Well, that's the guy that brought in Jeremiah Smith. It's the guy that brought in Carnell Tate. You go before him, Maserati Marv. Remember him? Jackson Smith and Jigba. Garrett Wilson. Chris Olave. All of those guys. He can recruit. Now, do I think that you could get him for the right money? And I think that Penn State could fork over a good bit of cash. Another name, I think Drinkwitz should have it. I think Drinkwitz has his name in probably about 4 or 5 coaching searches right now. I think Penn State would be a good fit for him. He seems to me like a Big Ten guy, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but he strikes me as a Big Ten coach in the SEC, the same way Brian Kelly did. I think it's a good spot for him. Interesting name, speaking of, Brian Kelly. He's a Northeast guy. He kind of owned that area with Notre Dame for the better part of a decade. I mean, he's going to have a good roster because Penn State will still probably be, I don't know about next year because you're losing Aller, you're losing your running backs, you're losing your receivers, you're losing some guys on defense, but they'll retool. My favorite idea, though, for this Penn State job, go get Pat Fitzgerald. That is the definition of a Big Ten football guy. He was at Northwestern for forever, and while Northwestern isn't known for having a football program, he got them to the Big Ten championship game not just once. Northwestern. It's more than Penn State can say in that time because those appearances came in between, or have come since Penn State's last Big Ten chair. Well, I guess they did make it last year, but before that, I just completely forgotten about last year. But even before that, that one appearance in 2016, Pat Fitzgerald did that at Northwestern. Now I get one of those years was with the COVID year, and obviously that gets a bit of a different look, but he's he's only 50 years old, so he's still relatively young in the coaching sense. He had a winning record as a head coach at Northwestern. Won the West Division 2018 and 2020. And those games were pretty close, if I remember. 2018, I know they had a chance to win it in 2020. Big Ten Championship. Okay, they got dominated in 2018, but the 2021, I remember, was actually very, very close. That one had a final score of 22-10. Ohio State had a late score, but there was a moment where Northwestern could have taken the lead, and they were number 14th in the stadium, or in the country at that point. The game, and the Big Ten had a tough time scheduling with COVID and all those restrictions then. So I just think Pat Fitzgerald is a great head coach, a great recruiter. He's still kind of a young guy, a guy that you could leave around for a little bit. Now, I get with some of his troubled history and with the troubled history of Penn State that may be, not the best matchup, but I don't know. I think he could get the job done, but obviously I think the guy at the top of their list is Brian Hartline. So my predictions for the rest of these, I think Oklahoma's going to get G.J. Kinney. I think LSU's probably going to try to get Eli Drinkwitz. If they don't, I don't know. Florida, again, your guess is as good as mine. I think Lincoln Riley probably right now. Auburn's probably going to find a way to convince John Summerall to take this job. Arkansas, I think if they don't get Eric Morris, that they're probably making a bad hire. UCLA, Jed Fish has got to be your guy. He's built programs before, and who doesn't want to live in LA? He's been your interim coach before. Bring him back. Penn State, I want Pat Fitzgerald. I'll probably do Brian Hartline. I don't think Hartline would be a bad hire unless, again, Ohio State does what they did with their last coordinator that got taken away by Penn State, is they just go get a guy from the NFL and have him coach up a bunch of college guys. So, yeah, the coaching carousel. It's a load of fun. Hey, folks, Sunday we had the longest AP poll drought of all time broken. Inserted at rank 22, the North Texas Mean Green. Broke a streak that dated back to the 1959 season. A total of 1,032 polls since then, spanning 24,114 days. Funny enough, that AP poll also had Ole Miss at 5, like the current one does, and Georgia Tech at 15. So the new longest drought, you got New Mexico State, who hasn't been ranked since that following season, 1960, 1,016 polls. Rice since 1961. Wyoming, 1998 was the last time they were ranked. Miami of Ohio, 2003. Bowling Green, 2004. And UTEP, 2005. So in my lifetime, I have never seen Miami of Ohio, Wyoming, Rice, or New Mexico State ranked in the AP poll. Fun times. All right, so last night we had our college football playoff rankings come out. We will go over the top 12 first, and then we will look at the full top 25, and then rant, because it's what we do on Wednesdays after. We had a new college football playoff committee chairman, and everything he said pretty much last night was a hypocrisy. But we'll get into the top 12. So at number 12 is the highest ranked group of 5, the only ranked group of 5 teams, surprisingly, Tulane. Tulane slotted in there at 7-2. The Green Wave probably have the best resume of any group of 5 team, but I don't think they're the best. And I don't think them or South Florida should be in the playoff for one reason. They've played teams that are playoff level and got dominated. Tulane and Ole Miss played this season. Now, that was back a couple months ago, back in mid-November, or mid-September. Ole Miss won that game 45-10. Tulane looked awful. Their offense had, in total, 4 quarters of football, 282 yards. That's okay, all fine and dandy, as long as Ole Miss doesn't get 548. This was kind of the Trinidad Chambliss coming out party. He had 419 total yards of offense. Kwan Lacey had another couple touchdowns, because that's what he does this year. They handled them easily. Thought it could have been a good game, but they handled them. But you look, they have wins over Northwestern. They have a win over Duke. You know, they played a hard out-of-conference schedule. They have a win over Memphis. Last two games, though, they got Temple and Charlotte. Teams that have a combined 6 wins. It's not going to be very hard. They have a win over East Carolina that looks nice, but I mean, you got some questionable losses in there. You know, UTSA by 22 points. How does that happen? That's the one that really kind of screwed the pooch for them, because it's not like that was a 7-2 UTSA team. That's a 5-5 UTSA team that is fighting to make a bowl game. And you looked completely lost. Your quarterback threw 2 interceptions. As a team, you threw 3. You had a ton of turnovers. You let a guy that throws a ton of interceptions throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns on you. Great game from Owen McCown. Again, I'm not going to rant too long. I just think that we should see a team, and the other team that's been in there that I'm hoping is done now is South Florida, because we saw them play a Miami team that would be ranked 1 spot above them in this poll, beat them like a drum. And like I said, Miami at 11, Alabama at number 10, Notre Dame at 9, Oklahoma 8, Oregon 7, Ole Miss 6, Texas Tech 5, Georgia 4, A&M 3, Indiana 2, Ohio State 1. These matchups with spreads, actually. Thank you, BetMGM, for releasing these hypothetical spreads. Tulane at Texas Tech would be the Red Raiders favored by 19.5. That would be the 12-5 game. In the 11-6 game, it would be Miami at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 4.5 in that one. I could see that. Maybe a hair higher. Alabama at Oregon, that would be a pick'em. Oregon's got some big wins at home this year. That would be a fun game. We've never seen Oregon and Miami, or Oregon and Alabama play before, ever. So that would be a matchup we've never seen before. Notre Dame at Oklahoma. Notre Dame actually favored, the only road team that would be favored. They are by 4.5 points. We've seen some great Oklahoma Notre Dame games, namely that home and home they had back in 2012 and 2013. They split. Now, again, that Notre Dame win was vacated because of Brian Kelly. But Notre Dame won that game on the field. The full top 25, we'll start from wanting to make our way down. Ohio State at 10-0. Number 2, Indiana 11-0. Number 3, Texas A&M 10-0. The only undefeated teams. They have the top 3 spots. Now, after that, number 4, Georgia at 9-1. Number 5, Texas Tech at 10-1. Number 6, Ole Miss at 10-1. Number 7, Oregon at 9-1. Number 8, Oklahoma, jumping Notre Dame as the highest 2-loss ranked team. Oklahoma at 8-2. Alabama at number 10 at 8-2. If I didn't say it, Notre Dame in between those. BYU number 11 at 9-1. A lot of BYU fans upset that they're ranked below those teams. If you looked a little better against Texas Tech, then I think you'd be ranked a little higher. But I think many people would assume that Oklahoma, Alabama, and Notre Dame are each, I'm not going to say more physical than Texas Tech because I don't like hypotheticals, but I would say are on the same level of physicality as Texas Tech. And BYU got destroyed in that game. They did not look ready for the moment. So, rightfully, you're back there. And then behind them is going to be Utah, because Utah lost to BYU. And then you have a host of 2-loss teams. You have number 13, Miami, number 14, Vanderbilt, number 15, USC. I don't think any of those teams have a chance in the playoff, to make the playoff. Vanderbilt, maybe. But they're in the same boat that a couple of other teams are in, and that's the fact that they're Vanderbilt, and they're not going to get respected. It's kind of like BYU. Why are they 11-9-1? Because you don't expect them to be good. And if teams weren't expected to be good, then they're not going to be ranked highly. And when they lose, they're going to get dropped heavily. Well, like a team I'm about to mention, Georgia Tech at 16. Georgia Tech is 9-1, has a Heisman candidate at quarterback, and they're ranked 16th because they have one loss that happened 2 weeks ago. Right now, they're the shoe-in for the ACC championship game. They're going to win that. They're going to get the 11 seed, and they're going to make the playoff. It's not like I'm upset about that or anything. I think that they should be the highest-ranked team. I don't know why they're getting so much disrespect. And then right behind them, the first 3-loss team, number 17, Texas. I would argue why are they ranked, but then I could Then in my own point, why is Tennessee ranked? We'll get to them. Number 18, Michigan 8-2. Number 19, Virginia 9-2. Number 20, Tennessee 7-3. Number 21, Illinois 7-3. Number 22, Missouri at 7-3. And then 23 and 24, Houston and Tulane both 8-2. And then number 25, Arizona State at 7-3. Now, one of the biggest discourse that has been the case since the college football playoff rankings dropped a couple weeks ago. Why is Notre Dame ranked higher than Miami when they have the exact same record and Miami won the head-to-head? That's the question. Again, these two teams played Labor Day weekend. They played that Saturday night, August 31st. And the Hurricanes beat the Irish 27-24 in Miami, a game where the Hurricanes were able to get an early lead. Notre Dame came back, tied it up. Miami drove down the field and kicked a field goal to win that one. So, since the first college football playoff rankings, Notre Dame has been ranked higher than Miami. I think that this whole argument, because Mario Cristobal's making it, there have been some statements by Hunter Yurachek, the college football playoff committee guy. I think it's a dumb argument. If we're judging teams based off of what they did in week one, well, go ahead and kick Alabama out of the playoff and maybe out of the top 25 because, I mean, they lost to Florida State, and Florida State's terrible. So we can't have Alabama ranked, so kick them out. Cincinnati, when they were ranked number 11 or 12 or whatever it was a couple weeks ago, we'll kick them out. They lost week one to Nebraska. And Nebraska's not a good team. They're not ranked. Indiana, maybe we should drop them out of the playoff. I mean, they only beat Old Dominion by 13 in week one. What I'm trying to say is that the eye test is much more valuable than analytics ever will be. Because there are stats that'll tell you, if you do this, and this, you should win the whatever tournament championship, blah, blah, blah. Because analytics would have told you in baseball this year, for example, stuff that the last 10, 15 World Series champions had done. The analytics would have told you that the Red Sox and the Cubs would have made the World Series, and neither one of them made it out of the divisional. Red Sox didn't even make it out of the wild card. There's your point. Analytics tell you what you want to know. I think the eye test tells you what you do know. If you watched Notre Dame the past 8 weeks and you watched Miami the past 8 weeks, tell me which one you think's better. I don't care about the competition. Just tell me which one you think is better. And if it's not Notre Dame, I think you're just wrong. But we'll find out because they have some similar opponents and stuff like that. But we'll have common opponents as of time. When they played with Miami and Pitt coming up. Maybe if Miami destroys them, maybe they should be ranked higher than Notre Dame. But what if they beat Miami? Then what does that say about the Hurricanes? They'll have 3 losses. They'll be out. I really don't think Miami has. They're going to need some help, and maybe it could happen. But they're going to need that. We'll talk about something a little more positive. Let's talk about the Heisman race because this is something that's been really heated up last week. I still think you got Mendoza and Sayin at 1 and 2. These are my personal Heisman opinions. I got a new guy at number 3 though. I had I think Marcel Reed and Ty Simpson last week. I got Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. 117 carries, 1,135 yards, 14 touchdowns, getting about 6.5 yards a carry. Right behind him, based off his game last weekend, Jeremiah Love was awesome last weekend, but who was even more awesome? My new guy at number 4, Ahmad Hardy, running back at Missouri. 25 carries, 300 yards last weekend. So, on the season, 197 carries, a lot more than Love. 1,346 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. Just on the outside, and these could flip week by week, I got Ty Simpson. He's 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His completion percentage is a little low at 66, but has more passing yards than Mendoza and Sayin. It's just the touchdown numbers aren't there. And I get that Alabama's offense isn't designed to score a bunch of points. You kind of have to be in one of those offenses if you want to win the Heisman, unless you're a guy like Jeremiah Smith, where you're getting the bulk of the touches for Ohio State at wide receiver. The guy I have also just outside 69 catches, 900 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's getting a lot of the attention from Julian Sayin. He has 10 of his 25 touchdown receptions. He has 902 of the 2,675 passing yards he has. Quan Lacey at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin said it yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. The kid's 19 years old and he has 19 touchdowns. He's leading the country. Now, he has way more carries than anybody else. He has more than twice the amount of carries than Jeremiah Love. 200, just under that, but 231. 1,136 yards, 1 more yard, 5 more touchdowns, 19 touchdowns, just under 5 yards per carry. And another guy, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker at Texas Tech. It's 97 tackles, 6 pass breakups, has forced 13 turnovers this year. If you go and just take him away from Texas Tech, just him himself, and you put him in with the most turnovers forced this season, him himself is 5th. I mean, those are Ndamukong Suh kind of numbers when he was, he has more sacks than like half the country. This dude is forcing more turnovers by himself than half the country, and I don't think he's even the best player on that Texas Tech defense. Yeah, I think they have some pretty good edge rushers that would like to speak with you on that too, but just with what he's done, and he scored 2 touchdowns this year. One off a pick six, one is the Wildcat quarterback. They put him in last weekend in a game that they were going to win by a lot, so they let him score. I think it's cool they're trying to build their linebacker a Heisman case because, I mean, the last time we saw a defensive player win the Heisman was Charles Woodson back in 1997. You don't see defensive players at all win, and much less linebackers. I mean, I guess you could say Travis Hunter won it last year as a defensive player, but I think his work on the offense did the bulk of the work. But you look at past Heisman winners. Quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback, running back, quarterback, QB, running back, quarterback, running back, quarterback. Yeah, there's a lot of quarterbacks, running backs. Charles Woodson as the defensive player, and he played a little bit of offense. Desmond Howard as a wide receiver, but you're not seeing linemen, you're not seeing linebackers. You can go back to 1969. Steve Owens won it as a fullback, but I mean, in that time, fullback, running back was kind of the thing. Ernie Davis played a halfback, linebacker, and fullback for Syracuse. And I believe there's a movie made about him as well. Yes, The Express, the Ernie Davis story. It's got Dennis Quaid in it. I would say I think I watched a movie about him the other day. So he was the last, I guess, listed as a linebacker, but it's all running backs. Leon Hart won it at Notre Dame as an end in 1949. Pretty much the point I'm trying to make is a linebacker has, other than Davis there, has never won the Heisman, and he was doing it exclusively. Rodriguez will be doing it exclusively as a linebacker. Now, the real top 5 in betting odds is Mendoza, saying Marcel Reed is somehow at 3rd. If you watched him Saturday in the first half, that should have eliminated him from any Heisman contention. Yeah, he threw 3 picks, whatever it was. Should have thrown about 7. Diego Pavia in there at 4th. I think it's valid. He has well over 3,000 yards. 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 70% completion percentage, getting 5 yards a carry. That's really good. And then Jeremiah Love betting odds at 5th. Also, there were meetings held in Charlotte on Monday. The Big Ten made a presentation, it was around 45 minutes long, of a 24-team playoff format. Now, 12 will stay at the moment. But changes up to 16 teams does seem pretty inevitable. It's one that the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12 all kind of like. I mean, but first trying to add venture capital and make this $1 billion industry, even more money-centric, and now a playoff that pretty much has everyone in it at that point, the 2014 playoff. I mean, realistically, let's look at college football right now, and we'll look at that top 5. Out of Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Texas Tech, I don't think anyone outside of that top 4 can win it. I don't even think Texas Tech can win it. I don't think Ole Miss will. I don't think Oklahoma will. Oregon, Notre Dame, Alabama, I don't think any of them will. I think it's going to be Ohio State or Indiana, maybe Texas A&M. But why do we want a 24-team playoff just to prove that one team is better than everybody else and it's going to have to play like 6 games to prove it? It's terrible. When we come back, we're going to have college basketball. We have Monday and Tuesday games to break down. we had some good ones in the Champions Classic, and then we have games from Wednesday and Thursday to talk about, and then a little preview at Feast Week. So that will be when we return on the X Sports Network.
Welcome to Mid-South Barn Dominiums. We realize there's a lot of options when it comes to finding a builder for your next home. Here at Mid-South, we understand that customer service, quality, and selections are very important. It's a very large time, money, and an emotional investment, and we're here to listen and care. We realize the kitchen's the most used and abused room in the house. Our cabinets are locally custom made from Sanderson Cabinets out of Lawrenceburg. They're real wood, poplar or maple, whether you paint or stain. All comes with slow close hardware and many pull-out different style options to choose from.
Gifts and goodies galore await you at Miss Millie's in downtown Lawrenceburg. From brands you know and love, like E. Newton Jewelry and Tyler Diva Wash, to unique specialty gifts, you will find it all here. Whether you're looking for the perfect gift for someone you love or shopping for yourself, shopping local is the way to go. We have home goods, women's fashion and accessories, baby items, and lots of seasonal decorations. Our friendly staff will welcome you in, help you find what you need, and even package your gifts for you. Also, we can't forget to tell you about our popular bridal registry. Future brides can come and create their perfect registry with us. So stop by Miss Millie's today. We're located in the northeast corner of the square in downtown Lawrenceburg.
State Line Garage Doors, owned and operated by Justin Gobble, is your trusted local expert in garage door services. Based in Lawrence County, Tennessee, State Line Garage Doors is built on over a decade of hands-on experience, providing reliable repairs, replacements, and installations for all types of garage doors, residential and commercial. They proudly serve our community and the surrounding areas. When you work with State Line Garage Doors, you're not just another job, you're part of our community. Their commitment to quality, transparency, and craftsmanship is at the heart of what they do, and they offer free estimates. State Line Garage Doors. Reach out to discover the difference a company with local roots can make for your home and business.
Pat's Cafe and Catering has been proudly serving customers in Lawrenceburg since 1987. For 4 generations, our family-run cafe has served up delicious breakfast and lunch favorites, with friendly service and a welcoming atmosphere. We also offer full-service catering and can help to make your next party or event a success. For great food and friendly faces, visit us today at Pat's Cafe and Catering.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We just finished up our college football section. We talked about a ton, so go back and listen to that. We broke down the midweek games, all the storylines, coaching carousel, AP poll, college football playoff, and Heisman talks. So now we'll hop into college basketball. That's also getting underway. Not as many big games on Monday. Oregon took down Oregon State 87-75, the only big conference game. An interesting game that I kept an eye on last night. UT Martin went down to Florida State and ended up losing that one 87-73. I think it was a 3-point game at halftime. And I think it was 43-40 at halftime with Florida State in the lead. Listen, this UT Martin team is really, really good. And it's crazy because, a lot of people in the college basketball world are talking about them. The big one that's I've gotten a bunch of my information from Ryan Hammer has been big on them, and it's kind of the reason I am as well. They have a former JUCO coach from East Florida State, and he was the guy that always brought in a bunch of Eastern Europeans to his teams. Well, it's kind of a smaller version of what what Illinois does. With with all of their history of Eastern European players, and UT Martin's kind of doing that on a smaller scale. So they went to Florida State last night, and this is after beating some teams like Bradley early in the season. And again, this UT Martin team was picked to finish. They were somewhere early in the season in the 300s in the Kim Palm rankings. They were picked to finish middle, the bottom half of the OVC, and they looked pretty good last night for the most part, except one thing. And it's what ended up getting them beat by 14 points. And we'll look at that here if I can actually pull up the right Florida State team, not the football team. We are talking about men's basketball right now. If you go look at the box score, or the team stats, we'll go to team stats. Both teams shot in the mid-40s for field goal percentage. UT Martin shot slightly better from three. Both teams shot around the same thing from the free throw line. One team at 76%, one team at 57%. UT Martin out-rebounded them, mainly on the defensive glass. Pretty similar in assists. Turnovers. Florida State had 6. UT Martin, 26. If you look at the points off turnovers, there's a 29-point difference. If you cut that in half and just give up, say, 16 points, you win that game. You can win that game by one or two possessions right there. Because you look, Florida State got 20 more shots off. They shot nearly the same, 20 more shots off. If they both got 62 shots off, take 10 away from those. UT Martin got 52, 72 from Florida State. If both teams, that adds up to 124. You divide that by 2. Both teams get 62 shots. UT Martin is close and can maybe win this game, and that's their first loss of the season. Skyhawks, I'll keep an eye on them through most of the season. Got a game against Prairie View A&M that coming up on Saturday. Do they have any more big games left here in the early going? Not until, really not until conference play starts, and then they'll have some important games there. But had their one shot to get a big win, and they beat UNLV to start the season, and I get the Running Rebels haven't been great, but they kind of bouncing around. They actually did beat Memphis last night. They're 2-2 with some interesting wins. But yeah, a really fun team. If you haven't watched them, I would pick a UT Martin game. Maybe just go back. I wouldn't go back and watch last night's. If you want to go back and watch a game, watch the games over Bradley or UNLV when they had some big wins. But definitely a very good team. And listen, this isn't the same Florida State team as last year. This is a very good Florida State team. I mean, they're 3-1 on the year right now, and their only losses to the number 10 team in the country by 2 points. So, give Florida State their flowers. I think that they're a very good team as well. Also in action last night, the two big games, we had the Champions Classic going on up in New York at MSG, and boy, I feel really bad for the people that have to turn around and clean up Madison Square Garden, because they had a huge WWE Monday Night Raw on Monday. They had the Champions Classic on Tuesday, and I would assume the Knicks are on a road trip right now. Yes, so they will not be playing at home. And that's not in... The NBA Cup is not at a home court, I believe. Yeah, no, okay, they are. So, their next game won't be until Black Friday. So, on a road trip right now, so those guys are getting time to clean that out. But, man, the turnaround from Raw to 2 basketball games in one night, very impressive. We'll jump into that first one that really shocked me. Michigan State. I remember saying after they played Arkansas that I didn't think either one of those teams looked very good at all. I didn't. They were sluggish, turnovers, neither team shot very well. I just didn't think either of them were very good. Well, Michigan State goes out and beats Kentucky last night by 17 points. And it was a 17-point game at halftime. It was one of those where you kind of let off the brakes in the second half. And we'll talk good about Michigan State first before we go into the bad for Kentucky. Jackson Kohler was awesome. 20 points, 8 for 12 from the field, couple rebounds, just played really good basketball all around. Jeremy Fears. That last name may sound familiar. He's the older brother, of Jeremiah Fears, the guy that was just picked, 5th in the NBA draft out of Oklahoma. He goes for 8 points, 6 boards, 13 assists, 2 turnovers. I love a good assist to turnover ratio. Anything over 3 is really awesome, 3 or 4. Trey Fort, 13 points. And then off the bench, Kerr Tang, 15 points off the bench in just 18 minutes. That was awesome. Now, let's go look at the Wildcats. I don't know what's wrong with them. They gave Mark Pope over $20 million to build a team. And that's $4 million for each starter. And college basketball players aren't getting paid like that. Diabate from Alabama, 0 for 4 from 3, put up 10 points, had a decent night. Brandon Garrison, nowhere to be found. Was just a no-show, played 20 minutes. You couldn't tell he was out there. Colin Chandler, all right. Otega Owe looks completely disinterested. And Denzel Aberdeen couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. I mean, it was that bad. You didn't have a couple of your freshmen off the bench, but are they worth 17 points? You get 8 from Jasper Johnson. He didn't shoot the ball very well. And it wasn't like they were turning the ball over like crazy. Only 9 as a team. They actually had less turnovers than Michigan State. But Michigan State passes the ball so good. Jeremy Fears had as many assists as Kentucky's entire team. 13. They got out-rebounded. I mean, Brandon Garrison is supposed to be your big guy. Almost a 7-footer. A junior, played pretty good last year. Even Diabate, he's 6'7", 6'8", something like that. He's a good rebounder. 42-28 in the boards. I mean, it was just total domination. And Kentucky cannot shoot. 35% from the field, 23% from 3. And when Michigan State's shooting 50, 50, and 80, their shooting percentages across the line, getting doubled on the offensive glass, dominated on the defensive glass, they're passing the ball better than you. They're not turning the ball over. They're doing just as much with more turnovers. The points off turnovers are very similar, even though Michigan State had several more turnovers. Yeah, it was just... And Michigan State had a lead that was 24. Kentucky never led after it was 17-14. Just an all-around bad night for Kentucky. And then you see Mark Pope. First, he didn't enter the post-game press conference for nearly an hour after the game. And he pretty much came in the press conference and talked about how poorly coached his team was. That Mitch Barnhart brought him there to win, and he's not doing that right now. I mean, it's weird to see the way that this Kentucky team is almost imploded early in this season. They have 3 games against bad teams that they have killed, and they have 2 games against good teams where they just got outplayed. Got a couple of easy ones coming up. They don't face another big team until they host North Carolina Tuesday, December 2nd in the ACC-SEC Challenge. But their December's rough. They got North Carolina, Gonzaga, Indiana, St. John's, all leading up to conference play. Kentucky may have a rough season going, and a lot of Kentucky fans are wondering if perhaps Mark Pope is Kentucky's version of a Kenny Payne, what he did over at Arkansas. I mean, or what he did over at Louisville. And speaking of what he's doing at Arkansas, he's sitting on the bench while his teams are getting in fights during games. That's exactly what he's doing. Tonight, we have a great game going on, 6 o'clock FS1, number 4 versus number 3, Arizona at UConn. Listen, these are 2 of the better playing teams in the country right now. Arizona takes down Florida night 1, wins that physical battle with UCLA last weekend. They're awesome. UConn gets that big win over BYU at the TD Garden on Saturday. They're looking really good. Solo Ball, Silas Demery, Alex Caravan still there. Looking really, really good. That one, 6 o'clock on FS1. 6:30 on True TV. Dayton at Marquette. These are 2 of the, I'll say, better on the mid-major end. And I don't want to say Marquette is a mid-major because they're in the Big East. But the Big East is a little down this year. If you're not St. John's or UConn, there's a couple of decent teams in the Big East, but it's I would say considerably down from what you typically expect out of the Big East, that they're going to have 4 or 5 teams that are really, really good. And maybe we'll find a couple more throughout the year. Obviously, I think Georgetown's a really good team. But for right now, the Big East is a bit down. And that's just for right now, early in the season. I mean, teams like Seton Hall's undefeated, Butler with 1 loss, Creighton, I don't know how I feel about them. But, Providence doesn't look good. Xavier doesn't look good. Marquette hasn't looked great. DePaul is DePaul, so, you only get what you can get from them. Also tonight, a great one going on at the United Center up in Chicago. Number 11 Alabama at number 8 Illinois. Alabama suffered a loss last Thursday to another fellow Big Ten foe in Purdue. One actually right across the state line pretty much from Illinois and one of their bigger rivals. Illinois has a big win already on the season. Texas Tech looked absolutely amazing in that game. Got a ton of young talent, and again, with the Eastern Europeans, man, this Illinois team is so good. I mean, I thought last year they had a extremely talented team that maybe underperformed a little bit in March, but you look at the way this team has played this year. They scored 113 points each in their first 2 games, and since then have backed it up with 81 against Texas Tech and 84 against a good Colgate team. And I don't think there's really going to be a big guy on that Alabama team that's going to scare Texas Tech one bit, because JT Toppin went off and they handled the guards. Donovan Atwell did nothing. Now, for Illinois, obviously you're going to want both Tommy and Zvonimir Ivisic. You're going to need a big game out of David Merkovich. He's been awesome. He had 28 and 21 in that game against Colgate. Stojakovic, you want a good game out of him. You got a couple guys off the bench that can produce for you. Ben Hummerkaus is kind of off and on. Colin Boswell, your hometown kid, so to speak, from Champaign. He's been awesome this year. You're going to want a big game out of him again. But I'm really interested to see the matchup, and I project it will be the matchup of LeBaron Philon and for Illinois, don't know why I can't think of his name. I just said it a couple seconds ago. Colin Boswell. Both big 6'3", kind of guards that are going to be really good, and I'm interested to see that matchup. It's going to be a high-scoring one. I anticipate this one is going to be up and down. When these two teams played, I believe in Birmingham last year, that one was one that was up in the hundreds, 90s, that kind of game. On Thursday, we have Pitt at UCF. This one at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. We've seen UCF. They seem a little bit down this year, but they got that big win over Texas A&M. Pitt, their only big game they've had this year against West Virginia, they got dominated. They're on the road again. I like UCF in that one. Wake Forest at Texas Tech. That one at 7:30 on CBS Sports. This is, I believe, part of the Baja Mar Hoops Fest. Yes. As is another game we'll talk about in a second. This actually has a chance to give us some pretty good matchups. So you got Wake at Texas Tech. Well, Wake versus Texas Tech. They're playing in a hotel ballroom in Nassau. Texas Tech is really good. That one loss is to a really good Illinois team. Wake Forest, their one loss is, I think, a 2-point loss, maybe a 3-point loss to Michigan. Michigan has a small number by their name, but they've had a couple of those close games. So I don't really know how you value that Wake Forest loss. I know how I value that Texas Tech loss, that they just had a tough time defending that kind of style that Illinois plays. I don't think Wake Forest can keep up with that. I like Texas Tech, and this is one where the 2 winners will play, the 2 losers will play. The winners will play on Thursday, or opening round on Thursday. Winners will play winners on Friday, and losers will play losers on Friday. This one at 8:30 on Peacock, Mississippi State and Kansas State. This one at the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. Mississippi State's only played 3 games so far this year. And they looked bad in their losses. And they have Josh Hubbard. And I thought he would be very good for them, which he has. Only problem is they only have Josh Hubbard, it seems. And I don't want to say that they don't have any help around them, but they don't have any help around him. Looking at the Bulldogs on the year, they have a pretty close win over North Alabama. It was a game that was close in the first half, at least. Got destroyed by Iowa State, who I think is a very good team. And then it has a close win over Southeast Louisiana. Listen, Chris Jan's team's got it cut out for him this year. It's going to be a tough one. Kansas State is another team that we've seen put up a ton of points in a game this year. Mississippi State's defense looks down. I like Kansas State to advance to 5-0. And the other game in the Baja Mar, Memphis at Purdue. Memphis off to a slow start this season. 1-2 have not looked great. Have some bad losses. Like the UNLV loss is not good. I think their loss to Ole Miss is an acceptable one. They got to go up against the big dogs. Number 1, Purdue. I think it's safe to say Purdue's going to win this one. What I can't wait to see is the projected matchup on Friday of Texas Tech and Purdue. That one's exciting. All right, let's take a look at Feast Week. It's the best week of college basketball that is not the first round of the NCAA tournament. You have hundreds of teams going all across the world, really, at least North America, so to speak. And you got teams going to tournaments and they're playing 3 games in 3 days, stuff like that. So we'll start with the big one, the Players Era. It's the 24th to the 26th in Las Vegas. 18 teams, 17 of them are in the Ken Pom Top 100. You got teams like Alabama, UNL. I'll just read off the teams. Alabama, Baylor, UNLV, Iowa State, Notre Dame, St. John's, Syracuse, Maryland, Gonzaga, Oregon, Michigan, Rutgers, Houston, Tennessee, Creighton, San Diego State, Auburn, and Kansas. Really good teams. 11 of those in the top 50 in the Ken Pom. The Maui Invitational, which is slowly dying, and it's really unfortunate because the Players Era tournament has done this. You're like, man, why does the Maui tournament suck this year? Why does the Battle for Atlanta suck this year? Well, because all the good teams are going to the Players Era. The Maui Jim Maui in Maui, it's actually not even the Maui Jim Maui Invitational, it's Southwest Maui. And we're changing up sponsors on me. So this one, 24th through the 26th in Maui. Seton Hall, Texas. I believe that's USC, not Santa Clara. USC. Chaminade, obviously, always in it. Washington State, Boise State, NC State, and Arizona State. I like NC State to win that one. Battle for Atlantis going on in Atlantis, November 26th through the 28th. Virginia Tech, Western Kentucky, Wichita State, Vanderbilt, USF, St. Mary's, VCU, and Colorado State. This is an interesting one. Vandy and Virginia Tech, the early favorites in that one, but we'll see how that one goes. The Acrisure Classic in Thousand Palms, California, the 25th through the 28th. It's got around 20 teams. I don't think this has all 20 listed, but I can just read off the ones they have pictured here. Utah, Ole Miss, Grand Canyon, Iowa, Tulsa, Northern Illinois, San Jose State, Loyola, Chicago. Actually, this does have all 20. Washington, San Francisco, Colorado, Nevada, Stanford, Minnesota, St. Louis, Santa Clara, Cal Baptist, San Diego, Pepperdine, and Fresno State. The Emerald Coast Classic going on in Destin will have DePaul, Drake, Georgia Tech, LSU. I like Georgia Tech in that one. Man, imagine if Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts are still at Drake. Drake would run that thing. I mean, it's crazy how things can change. The ESPN Events Invitational, this one at 16 teams facing off in Orlando. You got Bradley, Liberty, Princeton, Rhode Island, Temple, Vermont. I believe that's UC San Diego. We got Towson. Sorry, that logo is really small. Illinois State, Richmond, Furman, Charlotte, Georgetown, BYU, Miami, and Dayton. Watch out for Georgetown and BYU in that one. Miami could be a formidable opponent as well. The Baja Mar, just talked about those 2 games. That's Thursday and Friday in Nassau in a hotel ballroom. It's always a fun, and most of these are. I know the Battle for Atlantis is. Got Texas Tech, Wake Forest, Memphis, and Purdue. Really want to see that Texas Tech-Purdue matchup. That could be a preview of an Elite Eight, Final Four type of matchup. The Rady Children's Invitational going on in San Diego, California on the 27th and the 28th will feature TCU, Wisconsin, Providence, and Florida. Florida looks like the early favorite in that one, but watch out for Wisconsin. They have a good team as well. Paradise Jam going on from the 21st through the 24th in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This one, again, starts on Friday. Akron, I believe that's Evansville, Iona, UMass, Yale, Green Bay, Colgate, and Oregon State. I have no idea who's going to win that one. Looks like a fun one, though. Going on, the Charleston Classic, November 21st through the 23rd. Clemson, West Virginia, Xavier, Georgia, Boston College, Tulane, Utah State. Not sure who that last logo is. Interesting. I believe it's actually Davidson. They're using an old Davidson College logo. Georgia and Clemson, teams to watch out for in that one. West Virginia has also looked good this season. Xavier struggled under first-year head coach Richard Pitino. But listen, Feast Week's a good time to get a trophy in the trophy case because you can win one if you don't win one for the rest of the year. You know, I remember some Tennessee teams that won the Baja Marb that didn't make it out of the Sweet 16. We still got some trophies from that year, though. It's always fun for the team. The Hall of Fame Classic going on Thursday and Friday in Kansas City. You'll have Nebraska and New Mexico along with Kansas State and Mississippi State. Those are the two matchups. Watch out for Nebraska. They've been sneaky good this year, and they have a huge win over Oklahoma. I think that they can carry that one. The Sunshine Slam going down in Daytona Beach on the 24th and 25th. An interesting collection of schools. You'll have, I believe that's Utah Tech, maybe? Stony Brook, Jacksonville, Bethune-Cookman, Ohio, FAU, George Mason, and LMU. The last one, the Cayman Islands Classic, going on obviously in the Cayman Islands from the 23rd to the 25th. That one will feature Murray State, George Washington, McNeese, and MTSU. So, that's our little preview of Feast Week. And that should do it for this episode of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We will be back on Friday where we are going to have college football weekend breakdowns. There's not going to be as many games this weekend because the SEC, it's their annual cupcake week, so not many SEC games to talk about. But we'll have a lot of college basketball as some of these Feast Week tournaments get underway. And then next week, man, we are going to be all over the place. Not exactly sure what the schedule will look like for the show. I know we'll have one on Wednesday. Not exactly sure about next Monday. Busy around here calling games as well. So that will do it for the Wednesday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. Again, we'll be back on Friday to talk about all those things. So for Michael Marks, have a good night, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.